Hey folks, welcome to Bike Chat. Tonight we're going to be spending some time with Josh Patterson from BikeRadar, learning about some of the cool things he saw at Sea Otter. So let's talk a little bit about suspension. You sent a couple things our way. Actually, I think one of the bikes might have been one of the ones that you talked about before, Tony, that has a weird different layout now. So you got a couple leads over here that you talked to us about, Josh. The Marlin and another one, I think. What's going on with these bikes?
So Marin and Polygon
Marin, thank you.
have working with a new suspension platform called R3act, made by a company called Nailed. So the best way you can think about this is, these are two companies sharing the same suspension platform, which is like how you see DW links on multiple manufacturers' bikes. They're essentially licensing the technology.
Okay.
What makes it interesting is if you've seen, Yeti's switch system where they use, a pair of tubes to kind of help control the suspension action. What Marin and Polygon are using is essentially a slider that allows for a consistent amount of anti-squat, which is chain torque, through the range of suspension, which is kind of different. The piece they're using is basically a repurposed stanchion off of a that you might find on like a motorcycle suspension.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's that same diameter. So they're using, and the seals for that are also easy to find. So it's kind of off the shelf stuff used in a very different purpose.
So how okay, so they said that this bike, the whole thing about it is it descends as well as it descends. You know what I mean? But it didn't necessarily clarify whether it's a really good ascender and a really good descender. You know what I mean? Like, what are they saying that this descending and climbing matches up to? Is the climbing? Will someone get on it and be like, wow, this is as good as the Yeti? SB5. It's like that's something that's. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So and again, I don't have any time on it. We did have a tester that threw a leg over it. I've talked to people at other media outlets, and they were pleasantly surprised by, for the Polygon, it has 180 mils of travel.
Wow.
So, it's a big bike with 27 5-inch wheels. The Marin, the Wolf Ridge, has 160 front and rear. And Marin is basically positioning it as, a one-bike quiver.
Yeah.
That's what you were saying, Tony. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need a 120 trail bike and then a 160 enduro bike if you have one bike that can do it all. And that's where the kind of climbing prowess of the suspension system comes in.
So how was by this? When you what were your initial impressions when you saw this thing? You heard what it was all about. What were your initial thoughts to it?
My initial thought when I saw it is I thought it was an e-bike.
Oh, really?
I'm just looking at the pictures here right now, and I'm looking at it thinking, this is an e-bike. I'm looking at how far the way it's all set up. I'm looking for the word Bosch down by the bottom bracket because it looks like an e-bike.
Yeah, it has that kind of similar bulbous, down tube junction. It's something that the guys at Marin kind of joked about when I came by to talk to them. So they know it's a different looking design. But it just has to be based on where they needed to position that tube.
Right.
So, if it actually rides as well as they say, I think people will get over the aesthetic differences.
It's ugly. I couldn't. I'm all about looking at my bike and going, yeah, I want to ride that thing.
Well, it is interesting where they put the chainstay now. I mean, it's above. The chainstay's a lot higher now, so that's going to help with chain slap and I mean, heck, you can I don't know, arguably maybe put a belt drive on that now with the way that the chainstay's set up there. I don't know if that's something that you would or wouldn't want. I don't know, but it's definitely a unique looking design there.
Yeah, it's different. We'll have to see how it rides.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there might, we'll see if other manufacturers also decide to license this technology.
Yeah.
Now, is this supposed to be like, because you know how like the Yeti, they have their linear system or something like that? Is that, and it requires more maintenance. Is this type of technology, is it supposed to be maintenance intensive, kind of like that, or is it just supposed to be just as like everything else?
Well, like Yeti's Switch Infinity system, with the rails, it's actually surprisingly low maintenance. They have grease ports on it so that if you need to, you can, purge the grease from the seals. In practice, at least I've found it's been very low maintenance. This system, that could be an issue. And it's something I think some of my UK colleagues, noted that, because they ride in muck and mire more than I do in Colorado. There's a fender on the Wolf Ridge, and I believe the Polygon too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's required. If you were to unbolt that fender, you would basically void the warranty. I believe it says right under where you would take the fender off. Yeah. It's because then you expose that linkage to spray from the rear wheel. So I think that's going to be, the first question will obviously be, does it work as promised? The second is it durable? Yeah.
Yeah. Because, bottom line is, if it doesn't ride well, then no one's going to even get it. It doesn't make a difference if it's durable or maintenance free, because why would you even care? It doesn't ride well. But if it rides well, then of course you'll then have to take the next step and say, okay, it rides well, but I can only ride it for a season because the damn thing falls apart. So that's going to be an interesting way to go. But again, just like with the electric shifting, somebody has to push the envelope and make these changes and try different things, or we wouldn't even have the bikes that we have today anyway. So it's an interesting design, and it will be interesting to see how it feels out there, and if you're getting that whole lack of pedal bob and able to descend and climb as they claim.
Yeah, it's
cool.
Just like you said, it's we'll have to see till once we throw a leg over it.
Yeah.
But my hat's off to them for trying something completely different instead of just another 4-bar clone. So
ingenuity. That's all about America. Well, I don't know. Is it America? Where is this thing made?
Well, it's made overseas, but it was designed.
That's okay, Tony. I called it a Marlin. So we're both.
That's what I said. I'm like, it's a Marine.
There you go. So, Josh, we're getting close to our time over here, which is always tough for me to say because I don't get to spend enough time talking to you. But there was anything else? There was another topic. Did you want to talk about anything else before we lost you over here? Because I'd love to make sure we get some of the topics in that you think are important to cover.
I think we hit the highlights. I think that was a good roundup of innovative products. It's not the brand new this, that, or the other. It's not incremental change. These are pretty big changes, big products that could affect how we mountain bike in the years to come.
I agree. Which is cool.
For you. Oh, sorry.
No,
sorry.
Go, please go, Tony.
So I have a kind of a question for you. So I have gotten a couple debates in regards to how the mountain bike industry, I feel, is exploding compared to maybe 5-10 years ago. And a lot of people are saying, are you serious? Mountain bike riding was big then. It just goes through its little ups and downs. But I really feel like mountain biking is really taking a new turn that it's never gone to before. And with you going to see Otter this year and everything, how do you feel, in comparison to the past years that things are moving forward and expanding?
The pace of change just in the cycling industry in general has accelerated rapidly. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Again, I applaud the innovation, but it does make buying decisions much more difficult.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially when you're trying to figure out what's cool, what am I going to be able to get parts for in a couple years.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the people is what I'm saying. I feel like more people are getting into mountain biking than ever before. It's becoming more skateboarding was the main headline, 5-10 years ago. And then, you have these main sports. I feel like mountain bike riding is now, it's getting its time in the front and center potentially. You know what I mean? Do you notice more people at Sea Otter that it's growing in?
What I notice is a lot more kids. And again, this could be a whole nother show about.
I'm writing them all down, Josh. You're gonna have to get your calendar. We got to do one on how they're building material. I mean, we're jotting them all down, man.
Like high-end kids bikes, you know. Not that kids necessarily need a high-end bike, but the options there. You know, if their parents are really into riding, they have that option. Well,
that was one of the reasons why they didn't all downhill. They couldn't get into downhill before because the bike was like $5,000 or $6,000, but there wasn't anything less. There was only an Intense. And that was really only a couple, or Brooklyn, there was only a couple brands you could even get a downhill bike. Now, to your point, you can get a downhill bike, and it's not that terrible.
Yeah, and also I think one of the things now is 26-inch wheels, aside from Dirt Jump, is basically a kid size.
Yeah, it's true.
Which is, you know, you get your first real mountain bike. And one of the great things about that are you can find forks, you can find wheels, you can find tires for cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
Or you probably have a bunch of old stuff stashed, or a friend does. So it's very easy to build up, you know, a bike with like high-end components that are just a couple years old, you know, for your little shredder.
Yeah, it's true. Huh?
Can't wait.
We'll have to see. Yeah. All right, folks. Well, look. We got to say goodbye to Josh. We don't want to, but you know, the show's got to come to an end eventually, and we'll always get to talk to him again, which is pretty cool because it's great for us to get to spend some time with people that are in the industry. It's hard for us outside of the industry to get this kind of depth and knowledge. So Josh is cool enough to help us out with that. So it's a big kudos to you. Thanks, my friend, and we really thank you a lot for this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. And yeah. Let's talk again.
Oh, we will.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll take you up on it.
Yeah. So, folks, do me a favor. As always, look, click the subscribe button, okay? Subscribe over here. There'll be some other links to some other videos. Obviously, a link to the video that we had with Josh before, okay? There's always a link to Tony's channel, so make sure you visit Tony's channel, MTBdropIN. And you know how we always close it. Keep the party on the pedals, my friends. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you again, Josh from BikeRadar. And we will catch everyone later on. Have a nice night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dropping out.